Who, me?
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day's going well. It is Saturday. We're recording this Friday night, the day after Christmas. We have Jace with us tonight. And I know people look forward to that because he has some insights different than all the other guests. Last couple of shows I did on my own. Uh, Jace felt a little sympathy either for me or the audience, one way or another. So he thought, cut me a break and maybe cut the audience a break and split it up a little bit. Well, welcome, Jace. I hope you had a great Christmas.
Oh, I had a great Christmas, Mike. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I mean, it's like I said, I took a sabbatical there for a while, and now you can't get rid of me.
No, I'm happy to have guests on anytime I can. Like I've always said, uh, generally I'm a lazy bastard, and anytime I can have a guest, that only means I have to work half as hard, and I'm all in on that. I'm all in on that. This whole Epstein thing's been just really blowing up a lot. And what I'm rather enjoying, and I want to see if you got the same thing. What I'm enjoying about this Epstein stuff, you got the ones coming out and they're drip drabbing them away. And they're doing it on purpose. They're trying to make it confusing and dump here, dump there, just so people can't track it. But then they say, okay, we got another million that's coming out. Um, what I'm taking some great joy in is watching Donald Trump's True Social posts. This is terrifying him because all he talks about is the Epstein files. It's just a Democratic hoax. And everybody loved Jeffrey Epstein. And then they dropped him like a dog and said they never knew him. And I go, dude, that sounds like you, motherfucker. That sounds like a projection. But are you getting that same sense that people or he's getting a little freaked out at this point, and he's
I don't know.
anticipating the the devastation, and that's the hardest part of anything is just waiting for some bad thing to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to look at it, but I sent you a TikTok from that guy that he's like treats dementia, and he was talking about sundowning. And I didn't know what sundowning was. I mean, I know what the sundown is, but it seems like all that energy he starts building up that and he gets real paranoid after sundown. I mean, it's like
Right.
off on him. And I mean, this guy, I mean, I forget his name, but he's all over TikTok talking about it. And that puts Trump there to it, And I had mentioned something too about what I wanted the Democrats to do is because, I know I have the span of a fruit fly. I mean, like most of America, I mean, we fucking forget shit. I mean, why is
Yeah.
Trump back in office? Because we forgot about COVID.
Yeah.
And it was important for us to vote Biden the first time, but it wasn't important enough to show up to in numbers to vote for Kamala. So
Right.
even if they would have swung the election, we wouldn't have to worry about it if we would have shown up like we did for Biden. But that's what he's doing. And I was saying, I hope the Democrats keep releasing a picture here, a picture there. But motherfucking Trump's doing it for them. I mean, you haven't heard from the Democrats because Trump keeps doing it. He keeps talking about this stuff. And if it's for such a fucking Democratic hoax, a lot of motherfucking redactions, aren't there?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of redactions, and they're getting a lot of heat over it. I've said this before. I didn't think the Epstein files would be released until Donald Trump is out of office. Now, I'll grant you they are releasing some of them, um, but they're afraid to release all of them at one time. And I'm okay if they don't release the whole file, all the files, um, right away, because, like you say, they got 100,000 here, got a big controversy there, another 100,000 here. Now we got another million. They could drag this out for the next year, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Now, if they drop the whole thing, it would cause a big hubbub and it would probably still be devastating. But the surprise of it all, the mystery of it all would end in one fell swoop right now, over the next 3 to 4 months as people figured out what's in the thing. But by them dragging this out, this is this is exactly the wrong thing to do. And they're so terrified of releasing it. That's what tells me Donald Trump knows there's some seriously bad shit in there. Um, and he's trying to not let it out. In fact, he said something that I thought was funny when they announced that there's another million documents or another million files. He said, basically signaling to the DOJ, when is the DOJ going to say stop? No more, stop. As if the DOJ has that option. They don't have that option because a judge told him you got to release all of it. But are you getting the same sense that Donald Trump is really starting to shit his pants more so than he normally does?
Yeah, because Trump is very good at campaigning, like most Republicans. But when it comes to, like you say, nut cutting time, when they actually got to drive the fucking it's like that movie Speed with Keanu Reeves, wherein he's got to you can sit there and talk shit about the bus driver, about a car about to hit a bunch of pedestrians, or you can fucking get in that seat and make it not happen. Well, he's
Yeah,
pretty good at calling other people out. I mean, it's so funny because it's like they used to always give shit about people talking, like when you would say something bad about Trump. Well, what did you talk about him and stuff like that? I go, I mean, he talked more shit about Obama and what he would do, and he's really good at throwing the blame. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, at one point he's saying how great the economy is, but then again, he's saying it's messed up because of Biden. He's trying to do it both ways. In a lot of ways, when you're running, it's good to call people out, but when it's your fucking neck on the line to do the shit, people are seeing that. And I know that you're not going to get that 30% or whatever of MAGA. Those people are gone. But what he's lost is the independents, the
right.
people that he has no, I mean, Republicans will have no chance without independents because that 30%, they're always going to vote. But a lot of times they're just going to vote for Republicans or vote for Trump. They're not, I mean, when Trump's on the ballot, they're not necessarily, they'll go and vote for him. But the Republicans are sitting here defending this shit. And it's like they'll give Trump a pass on that shit, but they're not going to give, a Joe Smo Republican a pass on it. I mean, they're not going to, they're going to say, well, Trump's, working on healthcare, the last 10 years trying to get rid of Obamacare, but they're not going to give that same Republican, they're not going to show up for that. And the Republicans are just showing how much of a coward they are because they haven't dumped this guy. This is the perfect time to dump this guy and move on when he's the weakest, but they're not doing it. A lot of them are, embracing it and just acting like nothing's going on, and it's going to bite them in the ass in November.
What Donald Trump is doing, you pointed out, he's saying that everything's great, and then he's saying it's Biden's fault. What he's trying to do, well, he's flailing because he doesn't know what to do. He's getting hit from both sides and he doesn't know how to deal with it. He will tell people that everything's great, prices are coming down, jobs are great, and all that stuff in his effort to gaslight, which he normally does. But he's only really preaching to the base, the people stupid enough to believe it. And he understands that. So what he's also doing is, but if you're one of the ones that are smart and know it's bad, well, then it's Biden's fault. And it's really such a juvenile way to handle things, which we shouldn't be surprised about with Donald Trump because he's a fucking 13-year-old dipshit.
And he is like when you said he's getting nervous about that because he's already talking about getting rid of the filibuster because he sees the shutdown coming. And I'm hoping the Democrats are not stupid enough this time they have it in their favor about the subsidies. Yeah, they have to the 15th or whatever, but they need to hold Republicans accountable to this thing. They had a good chance last time when, polling was on their side and everything, and let it slip through and they look like fools.
Yeah.
That's why they have low ratings. It's because they don't stand up. Republicans are low, but at least, they somewhat stand up and, do stuff. But yeah, he's already talking about the filibuster. He's throwing everything out there. He's talking about the filibuster. He said something that took a lot of Democrats see him on social media. They're saying, "Well, I'm part of the radical left," because he said something that, like, if maybe me or you said this or any other president said that, Merry Christmas to the radical left. This may be your last
Last
Christmas.
hat, last Merry Christmas. Yeah.
That sounds like kind of like a threat. Where's the crowd that, wanted to go after people, for, saying stuff less than that? I mean, more people have lost their jobs over that stuff, but again, you got the Republicans quiet as a church mouse.
Well, what he's doing there is typical of a narcissist and typical of a dipshit. He's not being able to stop them with whatever strategies, bullying or anything that he can get away with. So what he's doing is what he was doing with Bill Clinton too. You better not release that stuff because there's some Democrats in there or Bill Clinton's in there. Well, Bill Clinton comes out and says, "Yeah, release that motherfucking shit." Either he doesn't care or he's not implicated somehow and he knows it. But Donald Trump is trying everything. He's trying everything from threats to trying to negotiate in the sense that, well, you guys are going to get it too. Maybe you should back off of this. He wants this stuff to all go away. And I'm afraid to tell him it's never going away until everything is released. It could take a year, it could take 3 years, but it's not going away. It's still going to be hanging around his neck his entire presidency.
And there's some awful stories coming out. I mean, some awful
Oh,
stories. And
I hope they're fake. I
yeah,
hope some of those stories are
why
fake.
would they be in the files if there wasn't something to it? I mean, the DOJ's not putting that in there unless there's a whistleblower that wants to make him look worse, which I mean, it's funny with that is like the same group that, will call Joe Biden that P word,
Yeah.
when he's with his granddaughter, will believe that, but they won't believe something that supposedly happened with witnesses. There was like a whistleblower, I guess, that said that story that they've complained about this before, and they were told about it, and it's just like, I mean, it's like there's more proof, quote unquote, back. I mean, maybe not proof, but more kind of, evidence, I guess, so to speak. It could be fake or whatever. But I just don't know why that would be in there if there wasn't some truth to it, because I don't think Epstein was trying to make Trump look bad. That was his buddy.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that would be in there. But also part of me is like, if that's in there and that happened, why wasn't this investigated? I mean, they know
Yeah.
who it was, but you can blame Biden and the previous administrations for doing this, but I mean, they go after down here in Texas. There's these things, these eight liners. There's these like illegal gambling machines. They fucking go after that more than they did this. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, I mean, in file sharing, when they did that, that was probably what's going on. That was a big deal. You filed shared, you shared some movies. Why are we fucking worried about that and not worried about this? I mean, yeah, it's easy to say now it's fake or whatever, but why was it never investigated? I mean, that's what I get me, and that's previous administrations or whatever that had this before. That's what gets me.
Well, it all comes down to people who are wealthy and powerful. They get a pass on everything they do, and that's with Democrats and Republicans. But you talked about the horrific stories in these files. You know, they come out and they say they're a hoax, they're a lie, they're fake, they're exaggerated. But again, my question is, how do they end up in the files in the first place if they're worthless? They should have been discarded after they've been debunked. But clearly, they haven't been debunked. Secondly, why does the Trump administration include them in the files they're releasing? Save for, like you say, maybe a whistleblower stuffing it in at the last minute and getting out accidentally. But they sure seem to be like deer in the headlights when these things come to light. And some of the stories we've heard, I don't know if this person is in the files or not. I would presume they are. But prior to the 2016 election, there's information that came out about a lawsuit by a woman. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were co-defendants, and this lawsuit was about the rape of a 13-year-old child. And if you read the document, which I have, uh, it is absolutely appalling what she claims in this. Now, that lawsuit went away pretty quickly. Some might say, well, it was because she was lying. Or some others could say that she might have been threatened, which seems more likely based on what we know about Donald Trump now. But remember, this was before he was president. All these issues with the Epstein files are prior to him being president. So none of these would have anything to do with his immunity because it has to be something that a president gets protected from doing in his presidential duties. If he wasn't president, then he can't be immune from it. There's the other story of a limo driver going along, and Donald Trump is in the back seat talking on the phone. He's talking about assaulting a young girl or young woman. He's mentioning Jeffrey Epstein's name. But whatever Donald Trump was saying at the time was so disturbing that this limo driver wanted to literally stop the car, drag him out, and beat the piss out of him, which I wish he had done. So that's an interesting story. And then there's this other story. This is the one I'm hoping is not true, but I'm getting more information about it and it worries me. The story is a young woman made a claim to the FBI that her uncle was trafficking her. She got pregnant, and then her uncle facilitated the murder of this baby and dropped it into Lake Michigan, and Donald Trump was there. Well, that sounds all kind of crazy and stuff. What does Donald Trump have to do with Lake Michigan and all this stuff? Turns out, around that time, Donald Trump did a lot of business up in Michigan, um, and he owned a boat on Lake Michigan. It was like a big river boat where they had a casino on it. And he owned it for 6, 7 years or something like that. So that doesn't mean it actually happened, but that's quite a story to come up with, pull it out of your ass. That's interesting. And what we know about Donald Trump, it doesn't seem impossible. That's the fucked up thing about this. You could see something like this happening, knowing how draconian Donald Trump is at this point. He doesn't give a fuck about collateral damage. And that story particularly troubles me because it's so appalling, so abhorrent. I hope it's not true. I hope it's just conspiracy theories, but for fuck's sake, we hear a lot of horrible things coming out of the Trump history.
Yeah, and the reason it's getting out is because it's incompetence. I mean, this is the same administration that's releasing, so-called redacted files, and people can, go and unredact them on with through Adobe. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like that movie, yeah, and I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's with Woody Harrelson and the guy that was with Jennifer Aniston. It was
Brad
called
Pitt.
White House Plumbers. It was on HBO, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
it was about Watergate. And you sit there and you watch that and go, God damn, no wonder these people got busted. They're a bunch of fucking idiots.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
the interesting thing about that show. Now that you mention it, I did watch it, and it was almost like comedy
yeah,
because it was
real life.
such a shit show, and it was comedy. But at the end of the show, they stated none of these circumstances were made up. These things actually happened. And that's the problem. There is so much incompetence and ineptness, and there was during the uh, Nixon administration, and it's way worse right now. I think when we read up on the history of these sorts of things, it's going to be amazing to a lot of people that we didn't catch on quicker, or at least some people didn't catch on quicker because it's so fucking stupid.
If we're seeing this and it's rumors and they're scrambling, can you imagine what we're not seeing? Can you?
Yeah.
I still don't know why this wasn't investigated. If these stories were out there, because if it's back in 15 or whatever, somebody should have looked at this stuff. We're the most FBI is the most powerful. But it's like you said. It all goes back to the Access Hollywood tape. We got a taste of who Trump is there. That's when you find people out is when you hear them on a hot mic.
Yeah.
It's like that whole. I remember hot mics was when Reagan was joking about bombing Russia. And
Yeah.
people lost their fucking shit over that. Now you hear Hot Mike, it's like, meh, just another day in the Trump administration.
Here's an interesting comparison. Ronald Reagan joked about bombing Russia. People freaked the fuck out.
He did.
Donald Trump actually bombs Nigeria, and people go, what the fuck? I mean, that whole thing is nothing but a distraction. The idea that he's going to kill ISIS, I find ironic because didn't he tell us some time back that he completely obliterated ISIS and it no longer existed? So why are you killing more ISIS folks? And he was talking about the genocide of Christians. This is all just this is just all pandering to the evangelicals and trying to distract and trying to create a perception for himself. With the things he's doing internationally, with Nigeria, with Venezuela, and what he hopes to do with Greenland, there's got to be a point where the international courts are going to be angry about this. Now, the United States doesn't recognize the ICC, the International Criminal Court, so they can't arrest him here in this country. If he left the country and he was convicted, then they could scoop him up. That's why Vladimir Putin and others don't go bouncing around the globe. But it was interesting the other day. Donald Trump came up with something out of the blue again. He was asking the International Criminal Commission or Committee or whatever to give him immunity. Donnie, you say what you're doing is perfectly right. Now you want immunity. This is Donald Trump knows very well what he's doing is wrong. That's the trouble here. He knows. Otherwise, he wouldn't ask for immunity from the Supreme Court, from the ICC. He knows he's what he's doing is illegal, and he's looking for another pass. And I think people have gotten to the point right now they're not going to give him a pass anymore.
Well, he's also, I was reading a story today that he's also, did you see that picture? Him and Melania was talking to some guy at their table at Christmas. There was nobody around him. He was just sitting there, just looking as pissed off as he can be because it's not, I mean, yeah, he's doing this Nigeria thing and bombing these things, but it's not working. I mean,
No,
his poll numbers are down. I mean, gas is going down only because oil is falling out. And I mean, that's pretty much, if you listen to Mr. Global, he'll tell you why that's happening. It ain't nothing Trump did. And what gets me about it is that he's so pissed off about this, but he's that guy that he's all talk and no action. I remember in his first term when it was his idea. I mean, I think they were saying that they've been working on this a while, but he's the one that talked loudly about us about getting Afghanistan.
yeah,
Did he ever fucking do it? No, he didn't do it. It's
no,
another thing about him not being able to lead. You know who fucking did it and took the heat for it? Joe fucking Biden did it. And
yeah,
they just
exactly.
crucified him to death. But it was Trump's idea. Trump even went on him about like he had nothing to do with it. But somebody like Biden had to go in there and take the heat because that's what leaders do. They got to do stuff that's not always popular. And it's just
Now,
more,
Biden did do it, but
yes,
understand the plan, the strategy to do it was created by the Trump administration before they left.
it was created by the Trump administration because he didn't have the balls to do it. He lost the election, but like everything else, they can't lead. And they can't lead, they leave it to somebody else to do. I mean, Biden was sitting there fixing all the shit that Trump messed up in doing it. And I tell you what, it's going to take a hell of a Democrat, or if it's a Republican, to fix the shit. I don't think it's going to be a Republican to fix the shit that's going on now, because that's what Republicans do. And you're talking to somebody that used to vote for them. They don't stand for anything. I think your state ones are a little bit more sensible than the national ones because the state ones they're just what's the word, draconian? Is that the word? You're
Yeah.
just like, especially like here in Texas, I mean, it's like, how can I fuck my base more, and look money in my pocket, but still looking good. And I just think that, Trump isn't a conservative. Trump doesn't stand for anything. Trump's about himself. And I got to hand it to him. I mean, he's grifted better than anybody, and they continue to grift, and they still got that. They believe they're in the majority, and I think a lot of Republicans, they see the writing on the wall. But when I hear Mike Johnson say that we're going to win or whatever in the midterms, I think they actually believe that because they don't live in our world.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about it. And they are cowards.
Yes.
Um, you just look at the continuing resolutions and the things that they've done. They always wait till the last minute of the last day
Mhm.
to pull out the stops. And I think that's what they're doing with Donald Trump. They want to make sure he's dead before they walk away because they're terrified of him. What they don't understand, though, is that they probably already waited too long. The damage has been done. their connection to Donald Trump is going to stick with them for a long time. And maybe they're trying to fool themselves. They're delusional about this, that they can walk away and spin the tale so it doesn't look like they were in love with Donald Trump. But that's going to be impossible to do. If you're a Democrat running against somebody who was once a Trump bumper, that's all I'm going to talk about. Because Donald Trump will be a pariah, and anybody close to him, like Stephen Miller, will be the same, a pariah. And anybody that supported them. You know, I told one person one time, um, I said, look, if you still support Donald Trump after all you know and all you've seen, if you support a criminal, a corrupt politician, adjudicated rapist, a pedophile, you're only one of two things. You're all of those things like he is, or you're stupid. And because I'm a good guy, because I like to think positively, I'm going to assume you're fucking stupid. And it's funny, they don't respond well to that. I mean, either way, they would have had trouble. But you'd almost have to be stupid to continue to follow somebody like that unless you bear that same kind of evil.
You know, it's funny. You see on TikTok now, you see women. There's this famous video of this girl blaming the 12 and 13-year-old, 16-year-old girls for what's happening. I mean, how do we know these girls didn't know what they were doing? I mean, it's gotten to the point.
Doesn't matter. They're underage.
I agree with you. Hell, I don't, hell, I don't think you're 21. You fucking really know what you're doing.
True.
I mean, I mean, it's something with that is this that there's no bottom for that. And I'm not a parent, but even I know that, I was a 15-year-old kid at one time. You think I'd judge his fucking judgment? Fuck no. There's a lot of shit I wanted to do that fuck no. I mean, it's like, I
Yeah.
mean, some of the shit I did, I'm lucky to be alive. I mean, there's got to be adults in the room. And I always say that when I see these pictures of Obama or Biden and I see, the current picture of Trump. I mean, it's like having a toddler in chief. I mean, I miss having an adult in running this fucking country because it's like every day it's something else. I swear and it's probably Stephen Miller, Nosferatu himself,
Yeah.
saying, how can I fuck over somebody today? I mean, he said something about he said he was watching some Christmas movie and he went off on migrants. I don't even know what the Christmas movie was about, but it was like he made it about migrants. And it's
Of
like,
course.
I mean, some fucked up shit happened to me in high school, but if I saw the guy that the bully that did it to me, I mean, I'm it's kind of a big guy. Nobody really kind of fucked with me. But if somebody did me wrong in high school, I wouldn't try to destroy their race because they were different than mine. I mean, it's like Trump. I mean, he was mad about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And he still does his shit with Obama. Obama and Clinton both haven't been relevant for years. But it's just there. And it's like, he inherited all this mess from Biden, but it's like, if anybody inherited a mess, it was Biden. And it's like,
Yeah.
and Biden's the one that had to follow up this shit, like getting out of Afghanistan and doing shit like that, having to fix the COVID mess that he ignored. And you said it last time we were talking about no hurricanes. We've been lucky there's no fucking pandemic going. But of course there's measles in the South because, fuck science.
Well, we have what's going on in California right now, all these horrendous rains, and they're going to need help, and Donald Trump will never give them the help. Colorado had fires. Donald Trump's not giving them any money, but they went to court, and the court said, dude, you can't hold back FEMA money. Now, it'll be interesting to see if he follows through with that. He seems to have a propensity to ignore legal decisions. A good example, he he took to court his putting National Guard into Illinois. He took it up to court. He took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, "No, you can't do that, Donnie." So I would presume he's going to pull him out of there, but maybe not. But what's he do? He doesn't learn a fucking lesson. Now he's sending 350 National Guard troops to fucking New Orleans. Well, you didn't say New Orleans. You just said Illinois. Well, yeah, if the Supreme Court said you can't do it in Illinois, they're going to say you can't do it in fucking New Orleans either. but he doesn't learn. He's just on this smash and grab, and he's destroying everything in his wake because he knows when it's done, he's done. And as I've said many times before, when you have a narcissist, when they know they've lost and there's no way out, they start breaking shit.
What they're doing in New Orleans is lining up for Mardi Gras because what is Mardi Gras? It's the Catholic faith. Who are a lot of the Catholics? They're Latin, Latino. So
Yeah,
it's just going to be another freaking thing for ICE to do that. I mean, as the old showing, that's going to be like, for fish in a barrel. I mean, that's what they're going to do because, I mean, that's what they're going to do because, I've been to Mardi Gras and there's just, a lot of shit goes on I saw something, I don't know who it was, but I think it was Prince Charles, and he was giving a speech about diversity. Okay, this is England. This is England. When you think England, you think fucking whiter than we are.
yeah,
And Prince Charles, the handsome devil that he is, was, given a speech about, diversity, and MAGA lost their shit. And it's like, it's like DEI, it's a bad word. Diversity is a bad word, and I can remember growing up and everything and hearing about, affirmative action, about, oh, how it was a bad deal. And I will say to myself that, I was never affected by it
yeah,
because I never was that big of a bitch to say, well, they got it because they're black or they're Hispanic. They got it because they're better than me. And you know what? If they're not better than me, the job will open up again and I'll go get it again. But there are people who hire, and I've seen it because I've been in the hiring process, that want to discriminate because, you know, we'll always find something to discriminate against. And there's got to be safeguards in that. And, if we pay our taxes, we do stuff for our taxes, there should be, yeah, Big Brother can overstep sometimes, and there's a lot of shit they do. But my God, what they're trying to do now with this is like all the safeguards. If we had another depression, the more than half of the country would starve because we don't have the safeguards we did. We haven't had a depression since the depression. You
yeah.
don't think we've come close to it. You don't think that we've had stuff that, snap. We didn't have snap back in the depression. We had this shit because, and it's not, and hunger isn't racist. Hunger will attack anybody, black, white, you can be fucking rich. And if we do have another depression, a lot of these people who don't give a fuck because they've got well off will lose their shit. Because if there's a dot com, or not a dot com, hello, I'm going back to the 2000s, if there's an AI bubble, and all this shit going on, it's going to affect more than just, the multimillionaires that we are. It's going to be, the other guys too. It's going to fuck everybody up. That's why it's called a depression. But they do it now to where they won't give SNAP benefits to people now. Can you imagine if something more catastrophic go and something happened? This administration wouldn't know what to do but take away.
Well, when you look at businesses and you're talking about things you're talking about, the restrictions on things for DEI or civil rights or whatever or affirmative action. And the thing about it is the only reason why there are a need to have restrictions, whether it be in business, whether it be in pollution control, whether it be in affirmative action, the only reason you need that is because there's fucked up people
Yep.
that don't do the right thing. You need to force them to do the right thing, unfortunately. That's why when we had this trickle down thing, they should have been forced to do something with the money as opposed to just putting it in their pocket. So you can blame government putting restrictions on things, but the fact of the matter is if people could be trusted, you wouldn't need to do that. The fact is they can't be trusted. They prove it every day. So that's why they're necessary. Everybody wants to say we got to get rid of all restrictions and let the market go with the way the market goes. No, bitch, we've tried that and it doesn't work. People cannot be trusted. They're greedy, self centered motherfuckers, and they will step on you to gain an extra dollar. So, because of that, there needs to be some guidelines, and they need to follow the guidelines.
there's something going on here in Texas. I think I talked about it before, how Greg Abbott's got this wild hair up his ass that he wants to get rid of property taxes. Well, property taxes fund schools. And, it's not just schools, but, people bitch about the schools the most, but it's other shit that it funds. And they want to do this stuff, but they don't have any. Even Dan Patrick has come out and said, well, what's your alternative? Because we're not going to have any income if we do that. But what Texas has gotten away with a lot of is it's got this it's got this thing that you could be its own country. Well, they had a thing recently, and they're talking about with the government, not doing SNAP benefits and everything. There's more people in line to get benefits, to get foods, because there was a program that it was like the summer feeding for school districts, for public school districts. Greg Abbott turned that down from Biden, but you know what? He also turned it down from the Trump administration. How
Really?
messed up are you this last summer to do it? And it's like, a lot of times that's the one meal that kid will get all day.
Right.
And we wonder why China's ahead of us. You get on TikTok, and this is why they want to get rid of TikTok, because they don't want us seeing how life is in China. Is it perfect? No. But China always gets this big bad, thing, and I'm sure it is, poverty and stuff, and I do hear it. But I've seen Americans working from over there, they get their health care is taken care of. I mean, they take
Yeah.
care of their people. And they have a lot more fucking people than we do, don't they? Or am I wrong on that? Look it
No,
up.
they have way more people, a couple billion people, I think, and we've got 350 million, so significantly more.
But if we can't take care of the less fortunate or the elderly, I mean, even animals do that. They take care of their own. But I got friends of mine that are on Facebook that they get those meals on wheels, and that's one of the things they did. They took away from. And
Yeah.
and they're cutting those after school programs for kids. I mean, I can't only imagine how, special needs are going to be next year when, there's no funding for it, because, we have to combine stuff, and we have to, put narcissists' names on buildings. We can do that, but we can't fund fucking, the hungry. What does it fucking matter? You cannot take it with you. You cannot, you can't. And I guess, I've made peace with, I'm never going to be rich. But you said something the other day about you're content.
Yeah.
And that's everybody in this country should be able to be content.
Right.
But there's people, and it's, as much as the freaking Republicans like to think, it's not just the minorities that are like that. I mean, I grew up in the white South and everything like that. You got some of the poorest motherfuckers, but they fucking will fight their last tooth and nail to defend a billionaire getting tax break. And you know what? I like me Amazon, but they need to be taxed on using our fucking infrastructure.
Right.
They're using our roads. They're using, the climate. They're fucking up the climate with all the extra trucks. You know what I mean? Everybody needs to pay
Absolutely.
their fucking fair share. And if we just pull together, and maybe I do sound like a democratic socialist, but me having a little less is not going to kill me. But maybe that other guy not having enough at all, it may kill them. I mean,
Right.
it's just, and what gets me about it, you're talking to somebody that's a fucking heathen. And if you know what a heathen is, it's just, it sounds like an awful term, which I love. It's somebody without any religious thing. And you're talking to somebody that grew up a Christian nationalist.
Right.
You have these mega churches with 100 million, 200 million in the bank. That shit ain't out there helping the economy. That shit ain't there helping the people. You got to tax that shit, especially if they start talking politics.
Yeah. Yeah. It's people need to become more aware and more educated and more informed in this country. We've got too many people just looking at the surface of things and saying, "Oh, I like that." And that's why Donald Trump became president of the United States. We should take note of that for the Democrats. We can't not have substance, but we've got to be able to play to the lowest common denominator, unfortunately, in this country. And those are the people that are attracted by shiny items. I mean, it sounds fucking silly, but it's absolutely true. That's the only way Donald Trump could get elected president. That's the only reason why we have a scandalous news story. Then people forget about it and they move on to the next one. Um, People in this country, we're not the brightest country in the world. I'll be honest with you. 49% of this country voted for Donald Trump in spite of all they knew about him being adjudicated as a rapist, being a failure in the first term, being convicted of 34 felonies. Still, somehow, they justified in their minds to vote for this guy. As I've said, they're either evil or stupid. And I tend to lean to the fact that they're more stupid than anything else.
Well, that's the education. That's the Republicans have the messaging down, Democrats don't. But when the Democrats take over, because we both believe that they're going to win in the, I mean, at least the
Yeah.
House. But I want a different kind of Democrat. I don't want a Democrat that just, and no offense to Biden, he had a lot to do and he was old school. He was a little too
Yeah.
old. Maybe he shouldn't have run. He should have probably run in 16 because I think he would have beat Biden. He would have beat Trump in 16 and he probably would have served 2 terms and, he'd really be submitted as one of the greatest presidents, which I think he will be. But we need to have a democratic, and maybe this is the socialists we're talking about, but we need to have somebody that targets the Supreme Court. And if we can't stack the Supreme Court, we need to do something called term limits because when you go up there and it's a lifetime appointment, nothing you fear. And some people say, well, that's the way it should be. They shouldn't be beholden to anything, but they're beholden to it now. They can be bought. And we need term limits because if Ruth, and I know she gets a lot of love, but a big reason we're in this thing right now is that she didn't step down. Yeah, there at the end, Obama tried to get her to step down. She should have stepped down. She passed away. When you have pancreatic cancer, you're probably gonna pass away. So, I mean, you got to play the game like you've already won. You had that seat. You had a Democratic president in Congress. You could have replaced it. I think Obama tried to get her to do it, but she wouldn't do it. Yeah, I appreciate her doing, but there's just sometimes when the country's bigger than you. And I've heard a lot of people give Biden that same speech. Well, he should have done this, he should have done that. I believe Biden was doing what he thought was best. And I believe, and you believe, you've told me that he would have beat Trump in this, a new election. I think more people, nothing against Kamala, but I think more people would have shown up. And Biden gets a lot of shit like that. But when you have a party that turns on their own fucking leader, what do you expect them to do? I mean, I think that was a lot of the Democrat apathy too. It's like, well, shit, they turned on the guy they had in there already. One bad fucking debate. Look at this guy here. He falls asleep every fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah, the Democrats have a lot of work they need to do. Running Joe Biden in 2020 probably was a mistake. And again, I'm not saying he was a bad president, but because of his age, it made it harder to sell the idea of a two-term president. And that's probably why he said he was going to be a one-term president. Then he changed it when Donald Trump decided to run. Um, there should have been kind of a youth movement starting in 2020 after Donald Trump did what he did. But this was the work of the establishment, the Schumers, the Hakeem Jeffries, to keep everything centrist and everything establishment. That's well and good if you've got an appetite for it in this country, but we've got mostly younger people coming up to be voting in the next presidential election. They don't like the establishment. The Democrats need to say, okay, they don't like it. We need to adjust. But they're still fighting like hell to hold on to whatever power, much like the Republicans are.
Well, I think you're kind of seeing that here in Texas now because James Carville has come out and he's starting to campaign for Tallarico.
Is he?
So there is an establishment Democrat, it's James Carville, which tells
Yeah.
me Democrats may be falling for what the Republicans are doing because they're acting more. What the Republicans are saying about Jasmine Crockett is getting to Democrats thinking that she can't win. And I think with Jasmine Crockett too, is that there's a perception that she's only reaching out to the African American community. She's not out there, you
That's
know,
fucking ridiculous.
but
That's racist to say that.
that's what the Republicans are putting out there. And that's why you're having, that's why you're not hearing anybody talk about Tallarico because I think they don't fear him as much as they smell Jasmine Crockett. Because I mean, well, my opinion is like it's not even the fucking primaries yet. I mean, we haven't the
Yeah.
fucking primaries yet. She hasn't, she's campaigning, but she's campaigning for the primary. It's not the fucking middle of what you say nut cutting time. But I also, I mean, but when you see that little bit of racism out there, you know what side's putting that out there, and you know what side is sucking it up. It's the establishment. But I read an article today that there, I guess there's like these, I guess there's these like betting odds or whatever, and they're not giving Cornyn much of a chance to beat Paxton. He's down like
Oh,
20% against Paxton. And they think Paxton, I guess they're saying that because it's Texas and Paxton's going to get, I mean, Cornyn, he's dead man walking as it comes to Trump's endorsement because he's going to endorse Paxton. That's the guy he wants to run Texas, and he's just going to spit a Cornyn to the side, and there ain't nothing down. And I'm going to like seeing that, but I hope, and I'm not a praying man, but I want to see Crockett against Paxton
I do
because
too.
I think she's got the bigger chance, and I think that and I'll vote for either one of them, Tallarico or Crockett. And don't get me wrong, I just hope Cornyn and Paxton do enough damage to each other to where they throw enough, support behind to the other side to where either they vote for the other side or they don't show up.
You know, I watched Tallarico recently in a speech. It's hard not to be impressed by this guy. He's a brilliant guy. He's a very good orator, very good. And he should be in the House of Representatives or the Senate, if not now, sometime in the near future. Um, I think the establishment feels safer with Tallarico. The establishment Democrats don't like somebody who's going to be a fighter and maybe a little further left than they would like. And that's one of the problems Jasmine Crockett may get is the Republicans are going to fight against her, but there will be some Democrats that fight against her too. The good news is they will have a primary, and what the politicians think won't fucking matter.
Nope.
It'll be what the people think. Um, I personally believe, I hope Paxton beats Cornyn for the Republican nomination, because then I think it's easier for Jasmine Crockett or any Democrat to beat that fucking clown. He's a ticking time bomb. He's got so many skeletons in the closet that and he's such a goofball too. I mean, he too is incompetent. So putting Jasmine Crockett against Paxton, that would be very entertaining, because Paxton's kind of a loudmouth guy, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. Uh, Crockett can get loud too, but she also is brilliant. And I can imagine what a debate between these two might be. She's not going to let him get away with shit. And it's about time we had a Democrat that was able to do that.
Well, I think what they're hoping on is that, when you say that Paxton's a goofball and doesn't know what he's doing, I mean that describes Trump.
Right.
And you have him down here. You have there's an old baseball player that's running for a local house. I forgot his name. I think he played for the Angels or the Dodgers. And I was listening to him and then go, yeah, I got President Trump support. I mean, a lot of the country, oh God, no, not down here. You still see them kissing up to Trump. And I think with Paxton, I think it's going to take Jasmine Crockett to beat Paxton because I don't know enough about Tallarico. I mean, what I've heard him say, I like. but I think he would be more suitable to be here in Texas, working on Texas, not so much national. Jasmine has the national experience. I think, that's who I would prefer because I don't know if Tallarico, yeah, he's pretty sharp and everything, but I don't know if he's the alley cat fighter that I was just telling you I want a different Democrat out there fighting. And
Yeah.
I just Tallarico is good and everything, but I think Tallarico is more once we kind of get the stuff we've won. I mean, you go into battle with your best fighter, maybe not your smartest fighter. I'm not saying that any one of them are dumb, but I'm just saying she's the best fighter, but he may be the guy that could run the state of Texas to get it out of Abbott's hands, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, if he could be elected governor, that would be outstanding. I think for him to jump from state legislature to the U.S. Senate, that's quite a jump.
I
If you're
agree.
going to do something like that, you probably want to go to the House next. Go run for a seat in the House of Representatives. Jasmine Crockett's not that far off from being a neophyte either. I mean, she's not been in the House that long, but she's risen pretty. Her stock has risen pretty quickly because of how she fights and how effective she is. Um, I think generally speaking, with the Democrats, we need almost everybody to be like a Jasmine Crockett or Eric Swalwell, somebody who stand up, spit in their fucking eye, and get ready to roll up their sleeves and fight. I realize not everybody is like that, but in the state we're in right now, in the situation we're in right now, that is what it's going to take to beat these fucking people. These are bullies, and the only way you can deal with the bully is knock him on his ass and make sure he doesn't get up. Jasmine Crockett is capable of doing that to Paxton. Tallarico, while he'd be a great politician and a great leader, he's not necessarily the best choice in that situation. That said, I do want to see him. I don't, it's going from local to national. That's a big jump. A lot of people do it, and sometimes it takes time for them to acclimate to the situation. I think he should be a politician or a an official that's been elected on a national level. I think Stacey Abrams should be. I think Katie Porter should be. We've got a lot of Democrats sitting on the sidelines that aren't involved in national politics, and they may be some of our best politicians.
Well, I think that Beto, he had his couple chances and, he lost twice and they pretty much call him a loser. But I think that, he's run for office. I think he ought to be, higher up, but it's the establishment that runs, Texas. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, they're running all these seats now. I mean, there's times I go to vote for, there's times I go to vote and there's no Democrat running. I mean, it happens like
right.
way with no Republican running either, because where I live, San Antonio is blue. And I mean, I of course always vote for the Democrat, but I don't think I voted for Hino Cuellar, and I don't think I voted for any Republicans. So I just, that's somebody else that, Trump may have pardoned him, but, he won re-election when he was under indictment. So, this is Texas. They evidently vote for, convicts when they're Republican or Democrat. So that tells you what we're up against.
Well, I think that we need to, at the very least, if the Democrats want to decide what they want to do, they need a Democratic opponent in every seat,
Correct.
whether it's no chance or little chance to win, because that's the only way you start the transition. And there would be no better time to do it than now because of all the bad will that the Republicans are getting. Now, in Texas, we know you're a big red state. You know, you love your senators, and the state is all
Oh yeah, I love
Republican. But is Texas feeling any of the backlash from what Donald Trump's done? We know that he causes problems with immigration. We know he causes problems with jobs and the economy and prices going up and that sort of thing. Do you feel like there are Texans that are really feeling the pain? I know Latinos are kind of stepping away from Donald Trump, but what's the general attitude about Texas, about Republicans, based on how things are going now?
Frankly, I don't think the media down here is reporting on it. I mean, you hear
Really?
about stuff all the time. I mean, honestly, we have a Sinclair owns some radio stuff, some TV stations down here. I don't. I mean, I watch the local news. I don't really watch the deal, but I mean, luckily, a lot of the cities like San Antonio, I mean, they already have their own kind of agreements with, Mexico, so to speak.
Yeah.
But what's really quieted down is down here is that, it was like everything was like border, border, border when Biden was here, even though, Biden had, a lot of things stopped. They were border, border, border when Obama was there. But now they're probably to a point now where they don't really know what to do. They, it's funny how you hear about all this flooding going on here in Texas, but it hardly ever rains.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of that stuff is because Texas has taken on probably more people than it should. Like, we do when you get rid of it, when you put a bunch of cement down and you don't plant another tree, runoff happens. And
Okay.
that's what a lot happened up in Kerrville over the summer. That happened here. There was, they showed it was like a little waterway and this car was driving through and they a lot of times the police are pretty good about putting low water crossings or whatever. This water came out of fucking nowhere because there
Yeah.
was nowhere. And what they're doing now is that you're having to fight these contractors that are wanting to put wastewater in streams that are a habitat. They're having to go to court and fight these things because they just want to put this toxic waste where people get their water. And I mean that's something that they have to fight for now because they're so worried about making a profit, they could give a shit if it fucks anybody up. I mean,
Yeah.
I hear stories all the time about how these houses are just built half-ass and they having to like tear them down and rebuild them because they didn't do it right the first place because they missed a few, safety inspections, all that evil stuff that the government makes you do. I mean, if I mean, and that's what's happening to Texas is that a lot of that stuff that used to be land that could absorb a lot of that water, it's cement now. So that's why you're getting the flooding.
You know, you said the media is not reporting about it in Texas, and I get that. Whoever you listen to in the media is going to give you a different story. That's why none of us can agree. But you can't stop people from experiencing higher prices. They go to the store, they can see the prices are higher. They can see that or feel or be affected by water that's been tainted, or they can feel their friends, family, and neighbors getting hauled off the streets and deported out of the country. You can tell them everything's all right as much as you want, but when people start feeling the actual pain that's being inflicted, that's when they stop listening to the bullshit and they realize, hey, we're getting fucked over here. I guess that's my question. Do you feel there's a lot or enough people in Texas feeling some of the pain from this administration,
No,
or do they care? You don't think so?
I don't. I don't know if they care because I think one of the things is like when oil was kind of gas prices were kind of high, we always see those Biden stickers. I did that. I mean, you don't see that anymore. You don't. I guess I don't hear enough. I guess maybe Democrats are a little bit less quiet about that. But I know in the first administration there was because there was like the food bank. They were giving away food, and it was crazy how much they were giving away. I think our government down here, state government, is so good about hiding it and masking it that there's other, like an HEB or like other companies, step up to where, these people, I mean, they say Texans helping Texans. I see more of that than I see. I mean, people lose their jobs, but what got me about it, I haven't seen anything like in Kentucky where they're starting to like not get any whiskey sales to Canada because of the
Right.
embargo. I'm seeing that. I haven't really seen that here. I do see things kind of slowing down to where, I mean, I drive by a Ford dealership all my way to work. And when Biden was president, there'd be trucks moving in and out. I don't see a lot of that stuff now. I mean, I always get called to buy a car. I mean, it's hurting down here, but I think Texas is real good about masking it, and I think that's the facade that they've, hid. If sad to say, Mike, but I think it may take a depression or close to a depression for people to finally, start talking about it. I can't say that I've been personally affected, but I don't know. I mean, that's hard for me to answer because I don't want to speak out of turn for myself, but I don't, I think Texas is really good about hiding its stuff. I mean, it's like, when they had that stuff, all those people waiting for food. I mean, you were seeing Escalades, you were seeing Mercedes in line. Yeah, you can have a
Yeah.
really expensive car, but you can still be food, short like that. But I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but then again, we're only a year into this administration. I mean, I like you and Eric said, I think it's going to get a lot worse, and I think we are going to start seeing that. But if people are stupid enough not to wake up, I don't know.
Well, after the election, I was talking to Old Soul and some other folks, and I said, sadly, it seems like it's going to have to be a catastrophic event before some people wake up. And the more and more I see this, when the Epstein files come out and this damning stuff against Donald Trump comes out, and some people are saying, oh, it's just a hoax, it's just a lie. Everything that comes out bad about Donald Trump is a hoax, everything else is legitimate. I mean, it's just childish when you look at it. But I too am afraid that we have to have a serious disaster before some people wake up. It's just they just don't grasp it. And when I say people wake up, it's not just the citizens; it's also the politicians. They've held on way too long, and it's going to hurt them in the long run. But it's going to take some catastrophic event for them to finally step away from Donald Trump and throw him under the bus. And that's the unfortunate thing. A lot of people are going to struggle and suffer. Some people are going to die just because they're playing these fucking political games.
Well, you asked me about Texas, and I got to remind you that Grandma and Grandpa froze and our power grid went out, and
Yep.
still got elected. Uvalde happened under his watch. He still got elected. So, I mean, I think we're very lucky that we haven't had a hurricane hit. I think we're very lucky we haven't had a pandemic hit. Yeah, yeah, you were talking about the California thing. I haven't heard the media talking about that.
No,
I mean,
no, of
it
course
seems
not.
like all the media is more localized than anything. Well, it's not fucking happening to me. I don't care. But sure enough, when something happened to a red state like Texas, Trump was all over that. But they're denying people that now too. You're not hearing about that. I
Well,
mean,
Donald Trump talks a lot about doing big things. He talked about bailing out the farmers, didn't do it. Talked about getting China to buy more soybeans, didn't do that. He's talking about getting them $12 billion, which is about 25% of what they need to save everybody. But he hasn't even done that yet. So just because Donald Trump says something doesn't mean it's going to happen. And this is so typical of Donald. He will say something to just change the narrative or at least give the impression that he's doing something. But he's such a paper tiger, he doesn't do anything to follow it up. He says shit and then never does anything. And this is, the fatal flaw for Donald Trump because people ultimately don't realize the benefits that Donald Trump claiming you're going to get, and then they get pissed off.
yeah, I've made a vow to myself that I am not going to engage in any kind of argument with a Trump supporter before because I mean, I'm going to come on here, of course. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
with people that, want to listen, yeah, but I'm not going to engage with them anymore. I'm not going to put myself in that place. I'm going to wait this out. And I say wait this out. I'm going to wait, till we get through this because, I do believe it's the beginning of the end. And I know how many times we've heard that before.
Yeah.
And I don't care, like, what you say, well, JD Vance is worse. JD Vance isn't worse. We're in the worst fucking timeline. I mean, I'm not a firm believer in a hell, but if somebody told me you have to really live your life because of that thing you did in the second grade, this is the timeline you got to fucking live through, I'd believe them.
Yeah.
because it's like, I mean, even I can remember, I mean, even, we do that podcast taking a break, and we've gotten some pushback. Well, I don't want to take a break. You fucking have to. You
Yeah,
have to,
you do.
and you just, and you, and this is just me, but I can't get on the thing to where I got to cancel everything. You know what I mean? Oh, this person believes different than me. You got to cancel those and get that out of your life. I mean, hey, yeah, if that works for you, but don't shame others for not doing what you believe or you're falling into that same trap. You got to have a little bit of a break. Trump is what makes everything else
Yeah.
fucking everything political. That is what you got to get away from. So, when I'm getting really good. I mean, I'm very thick-skinned, but I've gotten very good about, like, just letting them talk, because a lot of people, why do you put up with that? Because I live in Texas and I have to, because people I work with are that way, and I like to eat. I don't know if you've seen me lately, Mike, but I haven't missed too many fucking meals. And
Yeah,
I ain't
I'm
let motherfucking, tinfoil wearing hat dude, ruin that for me. I'm gonna wait this shit out. I'm gonna be as vocal as ever. When I've told you this offline, and when I can retire, I'm heading up north. I'm getting out of this state, because in 10 years, we're probably going to be out of water. And I like
yeah.
water.
Yeah, water's kind of handy to have around. You're right though about talking to Trumplefucks. I've always felt that way. Probably after the first year of being on TikTok, I argued with many of them, got absolutely nowhere. So then I thought to myself, then why would I do this? And the only reason to do it is to talk to people of a reasonable mind, of a similar mind, and try to inform them better. Maybe inspire them to do something of their own. We have Howard out in western Minnesota. He's an old guy like me. He decided, fuck it, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. and protest. You got Old Soul, of course. Um, the whole point of the TikToks and the whole point of the podcast is to do what I can do and talk about this stuff and hopefully inform other people and maybe incite some other people to tell other people or do something. And that's how like a grassroots thing starts. You start talking about it and talking to people who are Trump fans. If you haven't realized it yet, you need to get on it quickly. It's a waste of time. It really is a waste of time. They are not going to give up. They're not going to agree with anything until they're destroyed. So that's what we do. We continue to do this in an attempt to take them down brick by brick if we have to. Um, and
I've done
and people will say to me, you must be going nuts thinking about Donald Trump and politics all the time. And people are under the misconception that that's all I do and that's all I think about because I do a bunch of TikToks and I do a podcast. But yesterday is a good example. I spent a lot of time with my family on both sides. Well, not both sides. My son and his in-laws and such, and then also with my family, my brother and all my nieces and nephews and such. During those times, I'm not thinking about politics. I'm not talking about politics. I can sit down and do 3 TikToks and then walk away from it for most of the rest of the day. You gotta be able to separate yourself from it because it will drive you nuts. I'm good at compartmentalizing things, so I can think about something right now, deal with it, and then forget about it for a time and go on to something else. I know that's hard for a lot of other people, um, but you need that time away. You need um, that separation. I needed that time to sit with my granddaughter in her new playroom and start talking about the Barbie she got. Had nothing to do with politics, not even anything to do with what I'm interested in, but you need that separation. Uh, People worry too much because what you said is exactly right. We can do what we can do, and then we got to wait it out, see what happens. And when something happens, then we decide what we're going to do next. You can't anticipate disaster if it's not necessarily going to happen. You've got to do the best you can, see what happens, and then do the best you can again.
I think also too, you don't want to put yourself in that environment to where you have to put up with that. because I'm saying that now about people I work with or people that I know, but I did that years ago with my family. I don't really talk to a lot of my family because they are MAGA. And looking at me, wow, that guy's MAGA. They look at us, they think we're MAGA.
Yeah.
And like you know, I don't have the time for that. And I think, and I don't quote Christ a lot, but isn't there a thing in the Bible so they're by their fruit they bear? I
Yeah.
mean, you just look at
It's
that.
about prophets, I believe. You'll know
Yeah,
a prophet by the fruits they bear.
yeah. I mean, it's like, if Jesus was alive today and if you believe what he did, I mean, that motherfucker got down with the tabernacle and, through them out there, making, I mean, it sounds like a lot of the Pharisees were like MAGA. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
A lot of them, and and I've seen a lot of this stuff too, is where, countries that we support and we give everything to, like Israel, like if you say anything bad about Israel, you're anti-Semitic, and you're seeing a lot out in the right now. But you're
Yeah.
also seeing a lot in the right now to where they got a problem. They can only, and Laura Loomer is, and the brilliant, forecaster that she is, she sees that happening to where they have a white supremacist problem.
Yeah.
Because that's the party. What was that say that not all, was it not all Trump supporters are racist, but all racists are Trump supporters?
Yeah.
And like they say that about Republicans too, is that, they got a problem because that's, you have a lot of that stuff that's bred like that. You have a lot of people that, you show these two little kids, it's like that meme about the two little kids playing, black and white, you know what I mean? That shit is taught. I mean, you're not inherently racist, I don't think a lot of them. I think that a lot of that shit's taught. I mean, you can be born, you're gay. I get that. You're attracted to, you could be attracted to a fucking tree, that's natural. But
Yeah.
if you see somebody's skin color and that makes you hated, that had to be taught. Because I grew up around that a lot, especially down here, and there's a lot of that going down here. And I think that's what's so disheartening for me is when I see a lot of my Latino friends that support Trump, and I tell them, you realize he's just using you for your vote. He wants nothing to do with you. It's like the crowd at Howard Stern said it too. The people that go to these MAGA rallies, he wouldn't let them in at Mar-a-Lago.
No,
No
hell
fucking
no.
way.
No, hell no. And I don't know how they don't see that. Generally people are sensitive to people that don't like them. They recognize it easily. I mean, I can tell when I walk up to somebody if they don't like me. Now, I take great joy in that. If somebody doesn't like me, I'm fucking great. This should be interesting. It'll be fun to talk to this motherfucker because he doesn't like me. I actually have more trouble with talking to people who like me because I got nothing.
Are
Oh,
you talking
thank
about
you.
the rational boomer groupies out there, Mike? There's like a whole bunch of them,
Well,
huh?
there's no, nothing like that. But honestly, when I'm on a live or if I get DMs, I get a certain amount of accolades from people, and I appreciate it immensely. I listen to you every day. We count on you. Your husband is caught on to, and I appreciate the accolades, but I'm uncomfortable with them because I'm just doing what I do. There's nothing extraordinary about what I'm doing. Um, so when somebody hates me, I'm going, all right, motherfucker, let's go.
Well, I think you're wrong on that. I think you provide a service to people that want that daily fix, I guess, of politics. Say we don't do everything yeah, you do a podcast for a couple hours a day, but and you probably, like spend like 3 hours talking politics with all your TikToks, being there.
Yeah,
You walk away from that. There are a
yeah,
lot of people that don't have that hope that listen to you. And I think why you've been able to, I'm kissing your ass here. I think why you're able to keep going and keep building it is because you have not, there's a lot of creators on here that think it's about them.
Right.
I
Right.
watch a lot of creators on here, and I don't give a fuck about them or what they talk about, but they start making it about themselves.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we do that a little bit on taking a break. We know we do that when we talk about our states or whatever. But some of these creators, and they're bigger creators, they make it about them. They actually think that they are the show, and it
They
may
do.
happen, and that may happen for a lot of them. But I think people like you, I think with you, you see what you get. And if if you're right about something, you're right about something. If you're wrong about something, you fucking admit it.
I mean, I'll put it to you this way. I'm not at all impressed with me because I've been doing this all my life. This is just, if you've done it all your life, you better be halfway good at it. Otherwise you pick the wrong fucking thing. Um, but this isn't about me at all. This is about us. I just happen to be the loudmouth talking for all of us because me as an individual can't do a fucking thing. The fact that I have followers on TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that, that's the real value in the podcast and in the TikToks is the people that follow it because that's where the strength comes from. I'm just the loudmouth, the guy taking the slings and arrow up front because I don't give a fuck and speaking my mind. Probably one of the greatest compliments I get is from people saying, "You're saying exactly what I'm thinking. I don't feel comfortable or I can't say it." So to be able to speak for those folks, that's that it's not about talent it's anything. It's about the audacity and the not giving a shit to say it because there's a million people out there that want to say the same things I'm saying or the same things you're saying. They're just not in a position to do it or don't feel comfortable with it. So, so you're right. Some of these creators go, I got a bunch of followers, so I'm a star now. No, I'm not a star. Nobody's a fucking star on TikTok. I made this comparison one time. I said, if you're on TikTok and you got a million followers and you walk down the street and maybe every once in a while somebody goes, oh, I know you from TikTok. You think you're famous. What's famous is when Denzel Washington walks down the street and everybody knows him. That's a famous motherfucker. If you're on TikTok, you're maybe notable in some small groups. That's really what you are. And to make it bigger than that and get caught up in it, let your head get away from you, is just a waste of time. I'm not here to make me or anybody else famous. I'm here to hopefully fucking do some good and get through this shit. And some people are terrified and they are going through a lot of things because of what's going on. And somebody needs to be able to say, just chill the fuck out. We've seen this before. This is what could happen. I could be wrong, but this is what could be happen. But here's what I know for sure. I'm 65 years old. I've gone through every drama, trauma, tragedy, fucking trial and tribulation that all of you have gone through. And the one thing I can tell you is I'm still here. The country's still here. We will be here still afterwards, but we got to fight in the process to make sure we can get it happening quicker.
Yeah, and I think what's good about you is that you give people that voice. I mean, look what you did for Eric. You gave Eric that, there, and now he has his own podcast, so he's reaching, people as well. I mean, you're giving people, people like hearing Ed on here, Old Soul who does God's work.
Yeah.
She's braver than most people I've ever met in my life for what she's doing. But you also, for those people who don't want to come on and show their our pretty mugs, are the ones with the texting. I think that's a good thing. I mean, texting has pretty much replaced email. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I text when I email, and I think when you coming up with that was a good idea. And I think that people can it's like anonymous or whatever. You don't have to necessarily see their face or
Right.
hear their voice, but you are hearing their voice through the words they're doing. And somebody that they may not feel comfortable coming online because their job or their relationship or something like that, but they can always text. And it's just you give people that voice, and I think that's why you have continued to grow. And I think that's why you have 180,000 imposters, is like they say. What TJ said, that guy that had 180,000 followers
Yeah,
was an
yeah,
imposter.
that's crazy.
Shit,
I,
I don't even have
that's probably,
3,000 people on TikTok, motherfucker.
but that's the thing that I'm most proud of more than anything is everybody who comes, almost everybody comes on this show, save for Ed, because I know Ed for a long time. Um, we're just people who commented in my videos
Yeah.
or sent me an email or something. And I said, yeah, fuck yeah, come on. And what's happened is that those people, like yourself, like Eric, like Old Soul, well, maybe not Old Soul because you're not in social media, um, but all these people have been able to branch off because they have a lot of things to say, probably differently than I do. We're all of the same mindset, but they have different ways of delivering it, different ways of abilities. And now they've got people following them. And I think that's fucking awesome because what I've always said is it's not just me talking. I got to be talking for as many people as possible. And if you can do it for yourself and come on the podcast, get a platform that already exists and start speaking your mind. I mean, Will's a good example.
Mhm.
Eric's a good example. You're a good example. Old Soul, all the people that come on, they might not have, like you say, you have 3,000 people watching you on
Oh,
TikTok.
almost.
Almost. Okay. But you come on here and fucking people love you guys. So why you only have 3,000 or why Will only has 1,000 or whatever makes no sense because Will comes on here. They love this motherfucker.
Yep.
So I'm glad we're able to give a voice to a lot of people that have important messages to deliver, and we can give them a platform where they can give that important message and hopefully make people feel better or certainly more informed when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think that's what's important is to have, because I think that's kind of what, I mean, yeah, it was a little kooky and stuff, but I think that's what kind of made people like Art Bell that made me fall in love with radio is that he'd have these crazy motherfuckers on, but you know what? He didn't fucking cut them down. I mean, he treated them like they were people. I mean, some of them, some of
Yeah.
those crazy, but we both kind of agree there's paranormal stuff out there. Maybe not everybody's crazy. But that I always liked about him is that he went on there and he listened to the people and gave them a voice and a platform is what you do here. I mean, I think I much rather hear from Eric than listen to a fucking interview with Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Granted, I really look,
Absolutely.
no offense to Eric, but you know, I mean, it's like I'd rather hear him talk because he's got something to say. And then probably then, nine tenths of celebrities, because I watch, I see some of these celebrities now. I don't know who the half the fuck they are. I mean,
Right.
everybody I watch is dying off. I want to hear something. I'm at a point in my life where I want to hear something that I can learn a lesson from and not just about what fucking you did on Rodeo Drive. I mean, and I what you have is meat and fucking potatoes, man, and I think that's why it's successful. One of the
Well,
reasons.
and something somebody always makes comments about, I think TJ and Trucker and other people in comments would say that what's kind of happened here, it's all become a family. We all kind of know each other. TJ sent my grandkids gifts. Didn't have to do that. That was nice of him to do.
I didn't get
But
anything
we,
from him. What the hell?
yeah, there you go. But we talk a lot in text. He's down in Orlando going to Universal and he's texting me pictures and shit. But the whole point is that it becomes kind of a family, and that's what Art Bell did too. They all had a similar mind and they thought the same things, and whether it was crazy or whether it was real, they were kind of a family. And that's where some of the other creators miss out. Now, when I started doing this, I just said I only know how to talk, so I'm just going to do this. I had no intention of getting huge numbers of followers or creating a family or getting to know people at all. I was just going to do what I did and let the chips fall. That kind of developed over time, thankfully, because of people like you and TJ and stuff coming together and pulling some things together, because a lot of stuff that I'm doing now with the lives and stuff I probably would have never done without the help of all those people. So I appreciate that. But when you're a creator and you think you're a big shot and you've got all these followers, it's not about the audience, it's about them. And while I do have a healthy ego, I don't need it to be about me. In fact, I'd prefer it not to be about me because I want it to be effective. I want it to work. And I know me being, the star that some people think they are, that's not going to fucking do anything. You know, they're chasing viewers and followers and shit. And I've tried never to do that. I figured if it's going to work, it's going to work. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Um, I'll give you an example where I learned this. When I was younger, man, I had my oldest son. He was just a baby, and my wife and I had been married for 7, 8 years, and so I worked in radio. And I had this guy that I worked with at another radio station when I was younger, and he called me up and he said, um, "Yeah, Mike, would you come be the production director of the station I'm now a general manager at?" Fucking radio, yeah. Production was kind of my thing. And I said, yeah, I would love to do that. So I come and do the production. About a month into it, he comes into me. He goes, I don't really like your voice. I go, what do you mean you don't like my voice? You fucking called me. He said, well, it just doesn't sound to fit on this level. I said, what are you saying? I sound like a middle market guy in a large market. Is that what you're saying? He says, well, kind of. I go, oh, fuck. So I'm young and I need the job and I got a baby and all this shit. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll try to give him what he wants. I'll try to adjust how I deliver what I say, or I'll try to lower my voice or try to animate my voice more. And the more I did that, the worse it got.
Mm.
The less he liked it, the more I did that. So I finally just at that point said, fuck it. I'm just going to do what I do. And if you don't like it, fucking fire me.
Right.
They did end up firing me, but not because of me. It's because they got entirely new management. And when you're in a radio station and you got guys you don't know walking around with suspenders calling people into the office and they start coming out crying, you know your time is limited. And that's what happened there. But that was the moment I learned that it's got to be you, man. You can't try to play a fucking role because it's not going to work. It's not authentic, and people can recognize that.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that when we were on the paranormal side of stuff. You would have you see these Comic Cons that are together when they have all these, people together. There's a reason why you have so many and you just don't have one because a guy that I know was on our show and he wasn't one of the main ones, but he had some kind of thing at a bar one time where he was going to sign autographs about him and stuff. Nobody fucking showed up. The rest of the
I
crew
will,
didn't even. And I was
well,
going, this is why you're going to see like, a lot of these wrestlers together and William Shatner together, because it's not just about that one person. I mean, William Shatner may be a little different because he's fucking Captain Kirk, but a lot of these people, they do that and they think that they're the draw and they're not. I think why you've been able to do that and branch out so much is because you're almost like a head coach. You see a
yeah.
lot of these coaches like these successful head coaches like Jimmy Johnson, like Bill Belichick before, North Carolina debacle. But who are the coaches that are, who became coaches? Jason Garrett. Who became coaches? That guy that, I don't know his name, but he's coaching the Patriots again, and they got him pretty much in the Super Bowl. I mean, you have a lot of these coaches, Bill Parcells, the guy that I'm going to lose my man card for not knowing some of these coaches' names, but a lot of them they breach out, and you've kind of done that here with us. I granted I don't do a weekly or daily podcast like you and Eric, but it's like I got my own platform with you or whatever, but you've kind of set that up there, and there's I keep telling like TJ and I think Trucker T, I mean they could have their podcast too because they're both enjoyable to listen to, and I mean you planted that thing to where we are like a family. I text with TJ, I text with JD the farmer. I mean, it's a family thing and it's like a coaching thing, and you, Mike, have planted the seeds to that. So
Well, and I have to say, when I started this, I had no intention of doing it. I wasn't opposed to doing it, but I had no intention of doing it. Some people have said to me, you know what you should do? You should go to a town and do a live podcast and have some of the people there and then let people come in. Uh,
meet and greet.
yeah, nobody's going to show up to that. Maybe two people.
I'll
Maybe.
go up.
It's going to be embarrassing. Well,
Well, that's why you
as
got
many.
TikTok because you do that already. You don't have you everything's virtual.
Exactly.
I mean, I like the virtual shit, but the a thing I hate about work is that I don't get to fucking travel anywhere because everything's over fucking virtual. Back in the
Yeah,
90s, I got to go fucking everywhere. Now it's like, oh, we'll just do a Zoom call. It's like, son of a bitch. So
yeah, that sucks.
I mean that's what you're doing too. You're doing that whole town hall thing, with the not town hall, but the virtual thing with the
And it
Zoom.
works out better because, as I've said before, I'm a lazy bastard, so I don't have to move from the seat. I'm just stuck in the seat,
You
and
really want to be
we can
shaking
meet. What?
everybody's hand, kissing babies. You're not running for fucking office, dude. Come on.
I, I gotta tell you, I talked to one creator one time, and he says, yeah, occasionally I um, run into people who recognize me, uh, but I don't have time to sit and talk to them forever. These weirdos coming up to me talking about this other stuff. I go, are you fucking high? I will tell anybody who's listening.
Oh
If
yeah.
you ever see if you ever see me someplace and you want to say hi, I'm going to be more excited about you coming up to me than you coming up to me because it's flattering and it's an honor to be able to be recognized, however rare that may be. But if you ever see me someplace, I've had people come up to me before. I am gratified by that when that happens, and it's never a bother because I'm not that an important guy, and I'm retired, so I'm not exactly fucking busy.
Plus, I love that story about when you was in front of your wife. That was great, dude. I mean, it's
What's
like,
that?
well, but
Which
it
one?
was in front of your wife. That one that you said that one story that you're at the grocery store or a casino or something, and the lady came up to you, "Hey, are you Boomer?" And like in front of your wife, and that's when your wife kind of was like, "Oh shit, people are
Yeah.
listening to the podcast."
Well, one time I was in Maine. My wife and I we were looking for blueberry pie. So we go into the Portland pie shop. It's like, cool, we'll get a pie.
Yeah.
It's a pizza shop, not a pie shop. It's a pizza shop. So we said, fuck it. Um, uh, it was weird. So we get a pizza. We're bummed out because we couldn't find blueberry pie in fucking Portland, and we're having a pizza. And this woman walks up to her table and she looks at my wife and and she was being very respectful. She looked at me, my wife, and she says, "I just want to say to my wife, my husband and I just love your husband. You can talk to me." But you're right. You know, for the longest time, people look at, oh, you do your little thing on the internet. Well, there's a lot of people that listen, and I'm thankful for that. But um, it's easy to discount that, and even that, I don't care. You know, there are people to me that think I'm goofy and embarrassed for me for doing it. But fuck them. I don't care.
Well, I think that you're on the right side of things because I think to a lot of people that the internet is their life. They can't get it. They can't do stuff. And I've heard it with the text messages, and I've seen it in the comments that you have a devoted, and people reach out to me on my TikTok. Hey, you guys should do a show every, non-political show every day. I was like, yeah, I'll run that about Mike. I'm sure he's got time. I mean, it's little things like that that make you, grateful, for it. And like I said, I came across you that one time. It was during the midterms during Biden's, and I was kind of worried about the Republicans taking over. And I think they kept it and stuff like that. And you were the only one out there saying that. You had all these other ones that have been wrong all these times before, but still think people are going to listen to them for being right. I mean, it's kind
Yeah.
of like Y2K. A lot of people were wrong about that, and it's just that
Yeah.
whole thing that the rapture that I keep hearing about the rapture, and you're talking to somebody that grew up in that stuff. Okay, motherfucker, I got fooled one time.
Yeah. One time.
And I think I was looking forward to it because I had a fucking chemistry test and I was gonna fail that motherfucker win or lose. So it's like, okay, that shit ain't happening. So I mean it's like, it's like you say, I mean, we do freak out about stuff and don't freak out about stuff, but remain vigilant, or diligent, what's the word? Pay attention. But
Yeah.
my God, in a Chicken Little, the sky is falling and people cry wolf, people get burned out on that stuff. And I really think and I really believe that, I hear it all the time. It's like, well, you said it was close to the end before. I really think we're at the end of it, that we just need to wait this out. And I mean wait this out, not, not freak out and just, turn your head, and hide from everything, but wait it out because, as Kimberly Guilfoyle would say, the best is yet to come. America's not
Well,
over. I think,
I get people still coming to my comments saying, "Oh, nothing's ever going to happen. Donald Trump will just go on forever and do whatever he wants, and we're all going to die." And I don't understand that. We're coming to the end here, and I know I said, I don't really like making it all about me or talking about myself, and we've spent the last 10, 15 minutes talking about me, so I lost all credibility there.
well,
But
Mike, I'm one of
we're
your
going.
biggest fans. And if you call me a groupie, hey, I'll be one of the Rational Boopers groupies.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say I don't call my followers followers. I call them peers because I'm not anybody's leader. I'm just a guy stirring some shit. That's all I'm doing. But
You're the,
thank you, Jace, for coming on. We'll probably have you on back again this next week. It's going to be a fucking crazy one, so there'll be plenty to talk about.
well, thanks for having
I
me on,
think
Mike. And
I think starting next week and going into the first of the year, that's when shit's going to start to fly. January 5th, Congress comes back in. We got to deal with the healthcare thing, and the Epstein files will be even heated up more. I think going into the first part of next year, it's going to get fucking crazy.
and I think what's going to happen, I think after Marjorie Taylor Greene leaves, I think you're going to see more people doing it because there's rumors about them doing it. And we may be without a Speaker of the House because they're already talking about getting rid of Mike Johnson. I don't know who the fuck they're going to get. I mean, maybe they bring back Kevin McCarthy. You don't necessarily have to be a member of the House to be a Speaker of the House. So I don't know. Maybe Trump will step up and be the Speaker like they do all those rumors. So we'll find out though. But
Yeah, yeah.
2026, man, hold out. Ready for the shit show, man. But it's nothing that we haven't seen before. You just got to
I think
power through.
I think I think it's going to get really bad, and then it's going to start to get better all in 2026. At least I keep my fingers crossed for that. Those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.